Royal Lodge. At first glance, it looks as though it has leapt straight from the pages of a storybook. Turrets, sweeping rose gardens and that half-mile approach through the majestic Windsor Great Park. It is the sort of place where one imagines royalty gliding serenely through a charmed existence. Yet beyond those ornate wrought iron gates, the fairy tale begins to unravel. Step inside, and the reality is rather more sombre. Damp spreading across once luxurious silk wallpaper, water dripping steadily into buckets in the long gallery, and even chunks of stonework breaking loose from the facade. This is no mere case of wear and tear. This 30-room mansion, a Grade 2 listed house with a history dating back to the 17th century, is deteriorating from within. And the person now funding the emergency repairs? Not a wealthy patron, nor a philanthropic trust. It is Sarah, Duchess of York, Fergie herself, who despite her well-known financial challenges has just sold her last significant property for a reported £4.2 million. How did a royal residence, once the beloved home of the Queen Mother for 5 decades, reach such a state of disrepair? And why is Fergie, the former wife, now the one attempting to keep a prince in his palace? Let us begin with the figures, because they are staggering. Property specialists estimate that Royal Lodge requires between £4 million and £5 million each year simply to remain habitable. That is before one even considers the enormous expense of a new roof or a complete replumbing of the antiquated systems, many of which date back to the 1950s. The scale is extraordinary. This is not merely a house, it is an estate. Staff wages alone, butlers, gardeners, maintenance crews, even a reduced security team, can total £350,000 to £500,000 annually. Maintaining the 21 acres of landscape lawns, topiary and rare trees costs a further £150,000 at minimum. Without constant care, the grounds would swiftly become unmanageable, requiring even more costly intervention. The problems go deeper still. Damp has penetrated the 19th century timbers, while the exterior stonework is in urgent need of £1 million worth of repointing. The lease agreement with the Crown Estate stipulates that exterior walls must be repainted every 5 years, and the interiors redecorated every 7. Already, Andrew is at least a year behind on several of these obligations. Black mould and peeling paint are visible on the exterior, signalling years of postponed maintenance that, if neglected further, could threaten the very structure. In short, Royal Lodge is no ordinary money pit. It is a vast sinkhole of expenditure, almost impossible to sustain. Where, then, is the money to come from? Prince Andrew's finances are, by most accounts, bleak. His naval pension and former royal stipend ended after he withdrew from public life, following that disastrous interview in 2019. King Charles, meanwhile, is determined to reduce the cost and size of the monarchy. He withdrew Andrew's £3 million annual security provision, leaving the Duke to make his own arrangements. An extraordinary financial strain. The brothers' relationship is said to be strained, with the King urging Andrew to consider a smaller property, such as Frogmore Cottage, which sits empty and is far cheaper to maintain. But Andrew refuses. He clings to the 75-year lease he secured from the late Queen Elizabeth II in 2003, for which he paid a £1 million premium and invested £7.5 million in refurbishments. That lease obliges him to keep the property in good order, a responsibility that now weighs heavily without the income he once enjoyed from public engagements. The only consistent source of funds today appears to be Sarah Ferguson's tireless efforts. She has written children's books, launched podcasts, and dabbled in wellness ventures. Yet her financial record is uneven. She faced debts of millions in the 1990s, endured near bankruptcy, and more recently, several organisations have distanced themselves following controversy. Her decision to sell her Belgravia townhouse, intended as an investment for Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, has therefore prompted much speculation. That Belgravia property was more than an investment. It was her safety net. Purchased in 2022 for £4.25 million, it provided stability during turbulent times. By selling it now for £4.2 million, she has liquidated her most secure asset. Friends close to her suggest that every penny of that sale is already spoken for and destined for Royal Lodge. The immediate priority is the roof and the gables, repairs estimated at £2 million. Half her windfall gone at once, merely to keep out the rain in a property she does not even own. Then comes rewiring the West Wing, necessitated by persistent electrical faults. These are not luxuries, they are essential works to prevent further decline. Reports describe the property as being in a shocking state. Whatever remains after these urgent repairs may cover basic running costs for a year, perhaps two. Some even joke that Andrew might one day mow the lawns himself, though those who know him dismiss the idea as fanciful. The truth is starker. The Duchess is sacrificing her own financial future to protect Andrew from losing his home. It is an extraordinary act of loyalty or desperation. Behind the scenes, King Charles is said to be losing patience. Courtiers whisper that he wishes Andrew out of Royal Lodge before the next coronation anniversary. The symbolism is obvious. Smaller accommodation, smaller headlines, and fewer distractions from the King's modernising agenda. Andrew, however, insists his lease is watertight. Eviction would mean a legal battle, a spectacle the family would much prefer to avoid. Some members are said to worry that Andrew is being treated harshly, though others feel the King is entirely justified. Into this fraught dynamic steps Sarah Ferguson once more. She has apparently offered to fund a year's worth of repairs herself, hoping to prove their commitment, if the King would reconsider providing security support. The answer has so far been a firm no. Andrew must demonstrate by year's end that he can fund the necessary works, or the Crown estate may intervene. The standoff is increasingly unsustainable. What lies ahead? Observers predict that Royal Lodge will reach crisis point within 18 months. Either the roof will fail, forcing them to vacate, or Sarah will need to conjure new income, perhaps through books, television, or other ventures. Yet her financial reputation makes such opportunities uncertain. If funds cannot be found, the King could invoke a compulsory purchase clause, returning the house to the Crown and relocating Andrew elsewhere. Time is also pressing. If Andrew remains in the property until 2028, he loses entitlement to a Crown estate repayment of the £7.5 million he invested in refurbishments. For now, Sarah presses on. She has described Royal Lodge as the last home our girls remember, a reference to Beatrice and Eugenie's childhoods there. For her, it is not only a house but a symbol of family continuity. She will not let it go without a fight. If you are following this extraordinary royal saga with interest, do subscribe and share your views below. Do you see Sarah's efforts as noble loyalty or as a futile gamble? And which other royal residences might soon face similar challenges of heritage versus practicality? Royal lodges' peeling paint and dripping ceilings are more than a maintenance issue. They symbolise the end of an era, when palaces could be maintained without scrutiny, their costs absorbed unquestioned. Today, privilege must be balanced with accountability. Here, a duchess sacrifices her financial future, a prince refuses to concede reality, and a king waits for inevitability to take its course. The house will continue to crumble. The bills will rise. And this once glorious residence may yet become a cautionary tale. The next chapter in its story will not be written by royal decree, but by accountants, contractors, and balance sheets. And Sarah's £4.2 million? That, it seems, is merely the beginning.